Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Can you believe it's been 3 months since we had the Digital Excellence Awards and the Digital Leaders Conclave? Time flies, they say, when you're having fun. The topic of digital transformation and digital experience has always been a sort of a difficult topic to bring onto the table, especially in Sri Lanka. But the Federation of IT Industry, together with ICTA and the Sri Lankan government, is now working towards achieving a digitally transformed Sri Lanka. Good morning, everyone. My name is Shehan Kumar, and I'm the Chief Executive Officer of the Federation of IT Industry. And we are proud to present this exciting session titled Fueling the Digital Experience Economy with Connected Products and Services. We have an exciting lineup. We have some interesting speakers talking about various topics related to the industry and the digital transformation and digital experience. And we also have two exciting case studies from two of our winners from the Digital Excellence Awards. So without further ado, I would like to move on to our first speaker this morning, Mr. Asanka Abesinghe, Chief Technology Evangelist of WSO2. So Asanka will speak to you on enhanced digital experiences that have become a competitive advantage for any organization. So let me, before that, let me give a brief introduction about Asanka. Asanka's goal is to connect humans and technology by helping organizations implement digital transformation programs that result in consumer-driven digital applications. In his current role as the Chief Technology Evangelist at WSO2, Asanka drives efforts to create, refine, and enhance WSO2's corporate reference architecture and is responsible for spearheading a thought leadership outlook that defines WSO2's corporate reference methodology for development, customer success, and implementation. Working closely with customers, partners, and analysts, he evangelizes WSO2's technology vision. Asanka has over 20 years of industry experience, which includes designing and implementing highly scalable distributed systems, SOA and microservice architectures in the financial domain. He's also into mobile platforms and various business integration solutions. He's also a committer of the Apache Software Foundation. Asanka is a regular speaker at numerous global events and many tech meetups in the San Francisco Bay Area. So I would like to cordially invite Asanka for his presentation this morning. Over to you, Asanka.
Thanks, Shehan, for the warm welcome. Let me share my screen first. I'm deeply involved in this digital transformation programs and digital transformation journey in various organizations. So during next 30 minutes, what I'm planning to do, share some of my experience because there are a lot of buzzwords, there are a lot of theory behind digital transformation. So what I thought, share some of the real world examples and the problems and solutions that we can build on top of these topics. So I think that was a great introduction about myself, but I thought do a quick intro on my technical part. Basically, I'm coming from a product architecture and a product engineering background, and ran solutions architecture functionality for WSO2 for more than 10 years, and now telling the WSO2 story while providing strategic consulting for various WSO2 customers. So basically, I thought start with how this connected world and how we are deeply married to this connected world in today's market dynamics. And as an example, like most of us, we wake up based on the information provided by our smartwatch by telling what was the sleeping habit or sleeping pattern that we had. And then most of the time our devices notify us, okay, this is the time to do workouts, and then it will monitor how we do the workouts during that particular period. And if you set a focus time, these devices will monitor how we are spending this focus time. And then again, you can set a different type of monitoring and policies for your screen time, and it will provide the necessary feedback for that. So like that, I think if you look at from the morning to night, all these activities that we do are connected to these connected devices, even we didn't notice it. So that's the way it is, and these experiences are getting improved day by day as well. So as an organization, what you have to look at, what is the market outlook, right? Because you have to create a competitive advantage, and then from that, you need to increase your customer base as well as your revenue models, so and so forth. If you look at this market outlook, I used a three-dimensional view here. The first dimension is the applications. So applications are where the humans connect with this technology, right? So the applications are getting improved. Like if you look at it, it started from the mainframes, then move into desktop applications, then web era came and provided a great set of applications and experience for us. And edge applications like wearables, IoT, and mobile applications enhance that experience. But today, we are looking at a totally different application era. It's about Web 3.0 distributed applications as well as metaverse applications that these organizations are talking about. And the consumers are expecting these experiences as well. And we don't know what will happen in the application development in the future. So it's a very evolving and rapidly changing area. So that is about the application development. The second dimension is about the organizations. Internally, organizations are going through these steps. Digitization, basically you connect with analog and digital. Digitalization is about integrating these different type of digital systems. Like if you have a HR system, if you have a CRM system, how you connect these different type of systems is where digitalization coming into the picture. Then you move into the digital transformation. That's where you are providing a great experience for your customers using various digital channels. So that is where the organizations are moving. And everybody's priority is like to kind of move in this part, but the progression is very slow due to various reasons, and I call it as a messy middle because of the technology complexity, requirement complexity, skill gaps. The rapid application development and providing a seamless digital experience is blocking in many organizations. So the third side of the story is about the economy. We need to pay attention to that because that's where we make money and then generate revenue. The economy is changing. It started with products and then moving to the service-based economy, and we are experiencing an experience economy in the today market. And every organization should focus on all these three areas: how they can provide better applications, how they can improve their digital transformation, and then how they can focus on this experience economy. So a little bit more into the experience economy. I took this example of a coffee shop. So if you look at actual price of a coffee cup is less than $1, but we pay more than $5 for a coffee cup. So that additional cost is coming from the services and the experience people are getting inside the coffee shop, like the free Wi-Fi, and then the environment there, as well as people you meet. All these things matters, and people are not just coming for the quality of the coffee, they are coming for the experience that they can get inside a coffee shop. That is a really good example of the experience economy. And people are picking, like when they find a product or a service that provides the same capabilities, they pick the best product or the service providing a great experience for them. So that's where, like, as digital strategists, as well as people who's defining these requirements, we have to focus on this experience economy side of the equation. So as a consumer, consumers are advanced today as well. The IT literacy is really high, as well as people are like they can manage these devices properly. Because of that, they are expecting different experience today. So mainly everyone who's using these digital products, they are looking for a personalized experience, that it has to provide a personalized information and insight from the application. And they are looking for a geosensitive nature as well. And then it has to be real time, and it has to be predictive as well. So the best example is some of these department stores that they have digitalized these things, and when somebody enter to the department store, the application in their mobile device will detect who's entering, and then the things like iBeacons will detect where this person is inside the store, and based on the previous buying habits as well as their interest in social media, so on and so forth, the application will guide the person to shop, take him to the correct aisle with the correct size, and then take them to the discounted products and take them to the latest releases. And they might provide more predictive information by telling, if you wait for another like a week or two, this particular product will be available and there can be special promotion. That type of experience provided by some of these applications that developed inside these organizations. So that is the expectation. And as digital strategies as well as digital craftsmen, we have to meet those expectations. So to provide that level of experience, this concept called digital double is really useful. There are parallel concept to digital double, one called the digital twin. But digital twin is more about things. It's coming from the supply chain side, but digital double is about things and people, because it represents both. Because when you have a seamless digital experience, you need to have a representation of people as well as things inside this digital workspaces, so digital universe. Otherwise, it will not work properly. So that's why we picked that term called digital double to represent these digital representations inside the digital world. So if I go in detail about digital double, it's about your representation or representation of something inside the digital ecosystem. It contains many properties, it connects with many systems, and then pick these different type of properties associated with that. But most important thing is it has to represent with the digital ID. There should be a unique digital ID, and it can vary from various systems to systems as well as usage patterns. But having a unique digital ID is the most important thing when it comes to a digital double. So one example, I don't know whether you have watched this movie called Tron Legacy. So basically, if you have not watched, go and watch that particular movie. It's a very interesting story as well as a good way to understand what is a digital double. In this story, there's a guy called Sam Flynn, and his father is missing. Father's name is Kevin Flynn, and Kevin has a digital double inside the digital world, and that digital double has overtaken the physical Kevin and controlling him. Basically, the digital double has caged the physical Kevin, and Sam's task is to get him free out of that particular digital universe. So it's a very interesting story, and it will highlight how important it's to protect the digital double, as well as what kind of behavior these digital doubles can have in the future. So another example about the digital double is the digital double can be active even when you take a nap or when you are sleeping. So the dating applications are really good examples for that. Once you create a profile inside these dating applications, even without your interactions, that your digital double will start dating with different type of people. So it's an interesting thing, because in the first date, usually you talk about what are your likes, what type of movies you like to watch, what type of music you like to listen. All these things are missing now with this digital universe that it creates in the dating applications. The first date is done by your digital double, not by you, because it will do all these matching algorithms and identify the correct people for you. So that's another example how these digital doubles work in the current market. So with that, I would like to move into the digital business models. So now there's a digital experience end users are looking at. As providers, we have to build this digital experience, and to build a digital experience, you need the digital double. But end of the day, these different type of technologies and techniques that we discussed will fed into these business models. And these basic business models are not used in today's context, like a one-sided, two-sided. Those are like basic digital interactions, but we are in the multi-sided and value network type of digital business models today, because businesses can't work as a silo. Business is an ecosystem. So you have to have this multi-sided and value network type of digital connectivity to be successful, as well as increase the reach and provide a seamless digital experience for the your end users. It can be an internal user or it can be an external user as well. So that's where the digital business models are coming handy when it comes to digital product development. And if you dig into the digital enterprise, this is a very high level picture or a holistic view how it looks like, because people are building digital products without understanding the value it generates, as well as without understanding how you can leverage the existing systems and data, because you need to leverage those stuff, otherwise you can't provide a seamless experience. So that's where the network of systems coming handy, like those are like system of record layers, and then various other internal systems and partner systems, so and so forth. So you need to integrate these different systems to provide a provide a great experience for your end users. And once you connect these different systems, we expose those capabilities, or we expose those business capabilities as a API. API stands for Application Programming Interfaces, and that's the way that we communicate in a digital world. So as a provider, we have to expose APIs and increase the API footprint as much as possible. When you have a great set of APIs and a connected system, we call it as a composable enterprise, because you can share these capabilities as well as quickly expose any new business models by using APIs. So once you have these APIs, you can start building products by calling these business functionalities wrapped inside these APIs. So that's where the digital products will come, and it can be a product or a service that you provide for your end users, and it will provide a great experience. So the experiences are creating the value stream for the organization. That's where the revenue is coming. So as a digital strategist, you need to focus on all these three areas. What are the values that you are generating? What is the time frame for that? and then what type of products you need to deliver that particular value, and what's the experience provided by those products, and how you are going to fetch this information by using APIs and do integrations is what a digital strategist should focus and identify before they put the blueprints on these various digital products. So that's a high level overview of an internal digital enterprise looks like. In the connected, we talk about the connected world, connected devices, connected things, and how it is helping our day-to-day life and providing a lot of insight to manage our like quality of life, as well as increase our productivity and various other things that's happening during the day. So basically, if you look at it, how this is working inside a digital system or a digital architecture, these different type of things that we call them as a digital endpoint. So endpoint best example for endpoint is a door. Endpoint is something similar to a door in the real world that will provide the entry point to a location. So like that, all these different type of connected products, we can call it as a digital endpoint, and these digital endpoints will start feeding data into backend systems. So basically, two types of data will capture from these digital endpoints. One thing is the usage data. It's basically how, as an end user, you are using these particular products. As example, if you are using a smartwatch, like your exercises, your sleeping habits, number of hours you slept, all these things can be captured and sent as a usage data. As well as you have to capture the product behavior as well. So in the same example, how the smartwatch is working, that is one example. And if we take an industry-based example, if plant that is building a building or something like that, a number of tools will be used in that particular location, and how these tools are used, and what is the behavior of that particular tool when you have to replace that particular tool. All these things are captured with the product behavior, and the combination of the usage data and product behavior will provide a great insight about the product, as well as the how long you can use that particular product, so on and so forth. It's a very helpful information for the end users who's using the product, as well as a product designer and a product provider of that particular product or the service. We can use that data to improve the product supply chain and deliver better products in that exercise. And those data that we collect can process in various ways. So machine learning is one way, and then artificial intelligence is another way of handling these data that will provide predictive information, and then give more and more insight about the usage of the products, as well as how we can optimally use these products, as well as various other things that we can do by connecting those products into other systems as well. So that's the beauty, that as long as you collect this data from these devices, you can use that data set and create different type of models and give a better experience for your end users. So you might not have a strategy about how you can run this machine learning or AI related stuff at the starting, at the initial stage of the project. But advice is you should start collecting the data, because if you collect the data, then you will have a great set of data or a good repository. Once you have a good set of data, you can process these machine learning AI related data models inside that particular data set and start giving more and more value for your end users. And in addition to that, these machine learning and AI, those are not operating as silos. Those will connect with other systems. It will fetch different type of properties, different type of behavior patterns, and different type of transaction data. All these things can be fetched by these other systems running in this particular ecosystem and give more and more insight. So that's where the integrations are really important, that you need to have a great level of integration. APIs are really important. You have to expose these capabilities to access, and then you need to secure these things as well. Because if you collect the data as a provider, you are responsible for that data set. So to cater different type of compliancy and regulatory reasons, you need to pay attention to security, because as a provider, you are responsible for that data set you collect from your end user. So that is how the connected information architecture looks like in a very high level. So there can be different parties involved in this architecture as well. People who is building products that connects and then fetch data and push data into these backend systems, and people who's processing this data, and then people who's adding value to this data. Like that, different type of providers can get together and start delivering this value. So if you look at it, it's not a single organization. It can be many organizations taking part in a situation like this. So that is what we see in successful use cases, as well as great experiences provided for end users. So the another thing is understanding about the digital core versus digital context, because digital core is the place that you should start, as well as you should focus. When you have a proper digital core, you can build the digital context around that. So in the digital core, you have three things. One is APIs, that you expose these business capabilities. And then second thing is about integrations, how you connect different systems seamlessly. And then how you secure is where the identities will come in. So if you, as a digital strategist or a digital implementation team, if you are focusing on the digital core, you will create a great foundation for a better digital transformation program, because without having this digital core, it will be really hard to build rest of the experiences, as well as the connectivity in between different systems, so on and so forth. So our advice is basically focus on the digital core and get a stable foundation. So once you have that, then you can bring other technologies around that, IoT, artificial intelligence, machine learning, and then Web 3.0, even metaverse. All these things can be plugged without any issue, as long as you have a stable digital core that is providing enough information for these digital context technologies to operate in the digital context. So the one thing that we see with many organizations, they are focusing on the digital context and assuming digital core will come from somewhere. And even some organizations, they are outsourcing the digital core. That doesn't work. As well as you can't buy the digital core, you have to build the digital core, because it's totally depending on the user experience that you have to provide, systems you have to integrate, as well as the business models that you are creating that generate the revenue for your organization. So it's very important that you focus on the digital core and build it by using various systems that you see or you used in your enterprise. Then you can bring this digital context without an issue. So there are a few best practices or focus areas when it comes to these connected products, and then how you can provide a seamless digital experience. So first thing is about the unified endpoint management. I briefly spoke about the digital endpoints. Basically what will happening, you will get many digital endpoints or different type of entry points to systems in better digital architecture and implementation. So you have to manage these endpoints, because there can be internal employees who's using these systems, your own customers are using these systems, your partners connecting to these systems. And then again, there can be random people who will be evaluating your products connecting to these systems. So it's very important to manage these endpoints, and we call it as a unified endpoint management in the digital world. So having marketplaces, having registries, having that type of listings with relevant properties and policies embedded into these endpoints is really important. And you have to manage them, because you are responsible when it comes to these different things connecting into your system. So that is the first area you have to pay attention. Then the endpoint security, because when you increase the experience, the security might get like it will create less security or less secured system. So that's where like you need to have a you need to pay more attention to the endpoint security and create a zero trust environment. That way, everything that you connect will be secured. Every data that will transact through these different systems will be secured, as well as there will be a proper onboarding process even when there's a new device or a connected thing connects to your system as well. So endpoint security policies, entitlements, authorization, authentication, all these basic security principles will be valid here. But then again, you might have to go beyond this role-based access control, and you have to go into more attribute and dynamic policy-based access control mechanisms as well, because it's a very fussy and complicated environment you might get by connecting all these systems at some point. So having that foundation and then having these proper security policies will help you to control these devices and data that you exchange through these systems. Then we talk about the connectivity. Connectivity comes with the interoperability and how you interop with these different systems coming with open standards. So as long as you follow open standards, and then whenever you have to create an interface or a connectivity in between systems, following open standards will create a great entry point to have a proper interoperability as well. So then if you are using open standards, then the new systems coming in future, as well as any old systems that you have to connect, you can do that connectivity without issue. And there are domain specific open standards, like protocol specific open standards, and those things are getting standardized day by day. So based on your business domain, as well as the technical architecture that you build, picking the correct open standard is very, very important. Then as a technology provider, WSO2, we contribute to this space a lot as well. So I'm not going in detail about this product stack, but we are helping you to build a digital core by using this product stack coming from APIs, integrations, and identity and access management. And if you are interested, then you can go to the website and find more information. Addition to that, if you have an active project and if you need more help, we are happy to provide help on consulting as well as professional services as well. So I picked this quote from Kathy Hackle. So basically, she's a tech futuristic coming from the metaverse space. What she's telling, basically, the physical is not gone. The physical is still there even when it comes to metaverse world. So paying attention to physical is really, really important. So that's very important as digital strategists and digital product creators. We have to focus. I added something to that particular code, but then again, we have to build connected products and services and experiences, because that's where the physical will come and touch the digital. And as product designers, architects, we have to focus on that. If you don't build these connected products, services, and experiences, we will be out of the game, because our end users are looking for these connected experiences. So what I try to do, explain the importance of the connected products, and then how it connects with the technical architecture, and how the technical architecture looks like, as well as how you can connect it to a business model, is what I was trying to explain. And if you are in the early stage of these projects, or if you are in middle of these projects, you can refer this information and either improve your existing digital strategies, as well as if you are building a new strategy, you can use some of this information as well. So with the time allocated, I think that's all the time that I can spend. And if you want to discuss this more and more, these are my contact details. I'm very active on Twitter. You can follow me on Twitter. You can connect me on LinkedIn. And this is my blog that I frequently blog about various architecture and digital transformation related topics. So you can follow me and connect, and happy to have a conversation and help on your projects as a trusted advisor. Thank you very much, and I assume it was helpful and provides some information that will be helpful for your digital transformation projects. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen. That was Sanka, being a Chief Technology Evangelist at WSO2. I hope you found that session intriguing and interesting. If you have any questions for Sanka, please do type in on the Zoom chat, and we can take those questions as we go along. Yes, someone is asking if the recording can be shared. Yes, by tomorrow, hopefully this entire session will be on the FITIS YouTube channel. So please do subscribe to the FITIS YouTube channel, and then you can view the entire session. All right, so before we move on to our next session, I would like to take a moment to recognize some of the dignitaries that are around this table at the meeting venue this morning. So let me just spotlight that video. Everyone say hi. Hi to the camera. Right. So we have some very important industry leaders, I would say, around this table this morning. I take a couple of minutes just to give a brief introduction to them, and you can acknowledge when your name is read out. That will be great. So we have Mr. Fairuz Habib. He's the president of the FITIS software chapter. So Fairuz has been one of the dynamic spearheads of the Digital Excellence Awards and Digital Leaders Conclave. So Fairuz, welcome. Right. Then we have Mr. Ehanta Sirisena, who's the managing director of GoExpedi and director global delivery. He's also a very active executive committee member of the FITIS software chapter. Hi, Ehanta. Good morning. Welcome. Right. Then we have Mr. Dilan Rajapaksa, managing director of Vital Hub Innovations. So Dilan has also been very involved in the judging process of the Digital Excellence Awards. Hi, Dilan. Then we have another veteran of FITIS, I would say, Dr. Shant Yapa. He is currently the Chief Commercial Officer of Affinity Innovations. Good morning, Dr. Shant Yapa. Right. We have Hasit Yaghavita, who is the Chief Technology Officer of 99X. Hasit also has been one of the key members of our judging panel during the FITIS Digital Excellence Awards. Welcome, Hasit, as well. So, right, so we have our two speakers as well, Randil and Malishini. Say hi, guys. Right, so I'm about to introduce them as well next. Okay, so let me quickly share the screen and do a quick introduction to our next speakers who will be presenting their case study. If you remember at the Digital Excellence Awards, Nations Trust Bank PLC was the highest award-winning company. They were outstanding at the Digital Excellence Awards. They're going to present their case study this morning. It's titled Revolutionizing the Digital Economy via a Connected Product Strategy. And to do that, we have two speakers, Mr. Rantil Boteju, Senior Vice President, Sales and Digital Marketing, and Ms. Malishini Punchiheva, Manager, Strategic Business and Development. So let me give a quick introduction to our two speakers. So Randil is one of the long-standing members of the dynamic team at Nations Trust Bank. Randil was among the initial group of pioneers who championed the bank's efforts to become the single largest issuer of cards in Sri Lanka. In this endeavor, he has also spearheaded the research, development, and implementation of a wide variety of pioneering initiatives and firsts from Sri Lanka. Randil is particularly adept at working with large teams, digital environments, developing and grooming his people for success, making him a role model for many, and earning him the respect of his team members, his colleagues, and the wider industry. In his present role as the Senior Vice President, Sales and Digital Marketing, Randil is responsible for growing the bank's digital footprint. He is also responsible for creating and executing strategic and technical business development plans to augment the bank's sales efforts and digital banking, which cover corporate and consumer cards, consumer lending, retail banking, housing loans, foreign exchange services, digital banking, and FreeMe. He is also an associate member of the Sri Lanka Institute of Marketing and the Chartered Institute of Marketing UK. Right, so next we also have Malishini Punchiheva. Let me give an introduction to Malishini as well. She's the Manager Strategic Business and Development at Nations Trust Bank PLC. So Malishini is an engineering professional in electronics and telecommunications, having over 10 years of experience in management level, information technology, telecommunication, banking, and fintech industries. Given leadership to high performance teams and have successfully increased efficiency and productivity in the innovative, disruptive digital markets. In her present role as a Manager, Strategic Business and Development, she's responsible for creating and executing strategic and business development plans for FreeMe to define bank's direction towards revolutionizing the digital banking space, achieving goals and optimizing business using data-driven strategies, skilled in evaluating opportunities and risks, and also delivering innovative new solutions to disrupt the market. Malishini also holds an engineering degree in electronics, telecommunications, and computer science. So we have some really important speakers from Nations Trust Bank. So I would like to hand over the proceedings to Randil and Malishini.
Thank you, Shehan, for the introduction. And we are glad to share our story in terms of about how Nations Trust Bank has continued to revolutionize the digital economy with connected products and services. And also, I think we'll take the next 10 minutes, Malishini and myself, to try and explain on how we've journeyed and where we've ended up today with FreeMe. So in 2017, when we started off with the overall FreeMe proposition, we looked at the regional overview at that point, with China and India leading the technological payment space, and Sri Lanka being one of the lowest at that point. So we've looked at we identified that there was non-existent, fully fledged digital banking platform at that point within our target consumer. Along with that, month on month, we saw huge growth on face-to-face transactions, more than digital transactions. So at a point like that, so many branches were being opened, things like that. I think the other one is the face-to-face regulations. There was no regulation to do eKYC or non-face-to-face customer confirmation. It has to be physical at that point. Also, the digital space didn't grow because there was no interoperable transaction capability at that time as well. On the other side, I think it was a highly regulated market on the face-to-face side. And there was a large gap in understanding the digital space. Example, 2006 was the Electronic Signature Act, but most of it, was not even implemented. I think some of the industry is, still struggling to implement digital signature. I think so. That is, so those are some of the areas that we focused on. How do we change the way the Sri Lankans, Sri Lankans do their banking. On the other hand, in 2017 also, we looked at the customers' digital behavior overall. So we saw that customers, though they are not used to banking digitally at that point, they were using other digital channels like, day-to-day PayPals to, digital penetration, and, their phones for their day-to-day activity, including Facebook and social media. So we understood that the customer was already digital, trying to move around. So as a result, I think the overall summary that we wanted to do was, what we understood is that the regional nations were moving very fast, and the consumers were adapting, the organizations were adapting, the regulators were adapting, but the Sri Lankan environment was not so ready at that point. So that was one. However, the Sri Lankan consumers were ready to move on digitally. So, the industry, or the banking and finance industry was not moving along with the consumer at that point. To fill that space, I think we were the pioneers and, took the bold decision to invest at that point, and for the first fully fledged digital banking platform in Sri Lanka in 2017, which was FreeMe. So that's a whole platform that we launched. And I think if we look at the other areas, how we did that, Marshini will talk through how we've done that as well.
Thank you, FITIS team, and for organizers for organizing this session, and also for having me here today. So without me taking much time, let's continue with the case study. I'm here to discuss with you how Nation Trust Bank stepped up to resolve the problem and to close the gap that we had 5 years back in the industry, as Randy just mentioned. As a solution, we launched the very first digital bank in Sri Lanka, which is FreeMe. But simply adding the word digital to bank is not going to change the perspective of banking overnight. It's like you are telling kids medicine is cool unless it comes looking and tasting like gummy bears. They won't believe it. Also, if I'm to ask you to recall a bank 5 years ago, what would come to your mind? People have been conditioned as to what to think of a bank over many years. Like banks should have tall buildings, long queues, bankers wear ties, and they are rude. So the term bank had too much legacy associated with it, not in a good way. With FreeMe, we have been able to change the whole perspective of banking over the past few years. Also, I should mention, FreeMe is not just another mobile banking application. It is a platform beyond banking. Services that enable lifestyle of a customer. And also we work with leading technological companies locally and internationally to bring archived legacy systems to digital platform so that our general user will embrace banking with cutting edge technology through simple user journeys as well as products. And also we were the first bank to launch QR payments in Sri Lanka, which eventually became Lanka QR to roll out QR-based payments in the country. And we introduced lifestyle services so that outside payment and e-commerce platforms can be brought in to facilitate transactions under one roof. Also, we closely work with the regulator in Sri Lanka in driving the vision of regulator being a model wallet to launch new services by partnering with state organizations and to enable digital solutions like digital KYC, DRP system, ENIC verification, CRIB API integration, and the list goes on. And also at FreeMe, what we offer is a digital bank mobile wallet and payment system all wrapped up in one single application to cater to the consumers who are ready to accept a fully digital bank application. And also we position ourselves as the best lifestyle application and fully fledged bank, digital bank in Sri Lanka. And also when we design the user interface initially, we consider the color orange so that we could motivate millennials to use banking. So let's move into the next slide. So here, we at FREEME, what we did was we took legacy banking products and add quality of life improvements to make sense in Sri Lanka's hybrid digital economy. And also we considered when we like designing all our shared connected products, we categorize into 6 pillars based on the customer needs. For an example, on convenience side, when other banks offered debit cards for payments, we offered QR-based transaction. And also we introduced Pay by FREEME to connect with our merchants using simple technology. So there what we did was we developed simple API so that we would be connecting with the merchant's network, and their end user will complete the transaction with use of their mobile number or the wallet ID. And also, when we're talking about the transactions, when other banks offered fund transfers, we simplified the fund transfer term and we introduced send money or request money, cash tokens, gifting, bill splitting, lending products. So end user will not see a legacy products coming into play. And also on encouraging customers to saving money, we introduced goal-based savings, products like saving pots, roundup savings, bucket list savings, so that our end user will start using saving money without even knowing. And on the recognition and loyalty side, we got customers to we actually got customers on multiple rewarding scheme by partnering with our merchant network as well as other partners via bank. And so here what we have talked about is all banking products, but for us to, so for this banking platform, for us to add some a lifestyle flavor, so we came up with enhanced lifestyle products to give the experience of shopping and lifestyle to our customers. So what we did was we enable Pay by FREEME at merchant networks island-wide, whereas we have about 8,000 over merchant networks island-wide currently. And also we brought in e-commerce platform inside application so that our end user will have one-stop place to do all their transactions. So in-app lifestyle services, we incorporated with doctor channeling, concierge services, insurance, gaming, and so on. And very especially on the personal finance management, we encourage customers with the optimized products of us from digital account opening to tracking their transaction and linking other banking products. And very especially, I must say, the best part of FREEME is that you can even use a FREEME account by having your primary account at another bank. So we are the first the bank to launch interoperable banking platform so that our FREEME customer will have the ability of linking their other banking account. And also the strategy behind it was nobody wants to change the active primary account. What if our bank changed you? So we gave people a reason to be changed and to embrace banking without any effort. Over to you again, Randir.
I think while doing that, we've identified a few key impacts. What we've done to the overall market based on what the initiatives and the efforts that we have put in. Today, I think there's an end-to-end digital onboarding which is done by all the banks, which we started way back in 2017-18. We've launched our overall QR, the native QR in 2017 for payments. Today, all the central bank regulated the Lanka QR with support of Lanka Clear, and everybody is using QR today, and there are large implementations happening, which we are proud to do that as well. And the next one is, I think, the enabling the government services for everyone to connect. We've done a lot of work in that space to do that. And decentralized technology where API-based structures, I think the legacy systems taking off and actually bringing the bank into platforms is something that we've excelled in. Pay by Freeme basically takes off all the physical infrastructure that we spend a lot on terminals today. Then I think the other one is changing the way how future Sri Lankan or the students do banking is something that we take pride in driving. Also, I think within the lifestyle and as well as the new platform that we're launching, I think we've supported a lot of startups by enabling them inside Freeme as well as automating all their end-to-end journeys. In basically collections to everything else as well. So while we do that, I think how we've done that is we've gone in deep to the customer experience part. We have a lot of tools that we use to do that, and I think on the data side, excuse me, on the data side, sorry, excuse me. I think on the data side, we've analyzed. We have a data warehouse that we do data in terms of customer fraud to to help the customer manage the digital payments within a world like this. So I think that is a key area that we use data to do that today. And obviously the tech and engineering, our internal teams as well as the partners that we work with. The sales and marketing, the Freeme brand. We've managed to, our team has managed to build that brand into quite a noticeable brand in Sri Lanka, and also the partnership and relationships that we have that we build on the tech side. So I think those are the key areas that we've managed to work with to ensure that that we create a positive impact towards all these areas. So I think the end customer and the end user is something that we take pride in. Change the way of banking. The startup ecosystem, the tech developers. I think there are a lot of developers from our partners' side as well as our side internally. Are way ahead. Personally as well as we managed to influence that area. Corporates and institutes. I think a lot of payment processors and automation of their day-to-day operations we've done on Freeme. That's a great thing. Government and regulators. I think we work quite closely with the regulator. They've been extremely supportive, and we've also given our fullest support to do that. Then also the financial institutions at large, where we work together to drive the Sri Lankan digital economy. So just a quick snapshot of what we've achieved today through that. I think Just Pay leading about 74% market share, which transfers billions a month. 8 million unassisted transactions in 2021, and we've done transactions worth about 78 billion in 2021. And I think Lanka QR transactions we process about 40% of what is happening in Sri Lanka, and the average rating of 4+, which also takes into account the customer feedback and what we've done for them, is something that we take pride in. So to end our case study and the details that we try to do in Sri Lanka, I think we've just themed the future, saying reimagining banking in a digital world. We want to make it effortless. So we are continuing to reimagine banking in a digital world, not digital in a digital in a banking world. So we are taking that stride into ensuring that effortless lifestyle and effortless banking structure is continued. Then we are targeting to double the customer growth by 2024. Then also key partnership enablements, which will have key focus areas for the bank in the future, and also to facilitate and spearhead growth of digital payments ecosystem in Sri Lanka, which we take pride in working with all the stakeholders. So I think that's what we want to share within the time that we had. And over to you, Shana.
Thank you so much, Randil and Malishini. So next we have another interesting session coming up, and it will be presented by Mr. Dushi Tilaivasan. He's the founder CEO of Silverleap Technology and DHT Solutions. And Dushi, this morning we'll talk about business models that have moved towards the digital experience economy. So let me just quickly give an introduction to Dushi. Dushi is, of course, another dynamic member of the FITIS software chapter. He was also the co-chairman for the FITIS Digital Excellence Awards and Leadership Conclave. So Dushi, as a founder and co-founder of multiple technology companies, believes in achieving exponential growth in a world that is becoming digital. A continuous learner and a knowledge seeker, he combines his experience and knowledge to help others learn and transform themselves and their businesses. He's the founder and chief executive officer of Silverleaf Technology as well as DH3 Solutions. So I would now like to hand over the proceedings to Dushi.
Thanks for that wonderful introduction. Hi, everyone. Thanks for giving this opportunity to talk about business model innovation. This was the area that I worked on during the Digital Excellence Conclave. So let me share some thoughts on the importance and significance of business model innovation. And just to share a few components, and I'll also would like to share a case study that I came across in India, which I found very interesting. And also will lead you to the next case study that is going to be presented, the company that won the award for business model innovation. It's very interesting. So yeah, I hope you'll enjoy it. So this was a model that we created for the Digital Excellence Award. As you may see that any organization will have 4 dimensions. There are 4 dimensions an organization will digitally transform itself. And one area is the digitized products and services, and you would also see business model innovation is a key component of that. To get you into the discussion, I think all of you are now fully aware that we are going through an industry transition, and generally any industry transition it's a very turbulent time to any company. So during industry transition, most of the companies die and some survive. And what's happening today to us is that digital transformation that all of us are talking about is basically our attempt to transform ourselves and sort of survive this industrial revolution and go to the next one. Right? So that's basically what digital transformation, the term broadly actually means. Now, as I said, it's industrial revolutions are turbulent times, and I'm going to tell you about 2 interesting case studies that I came across, which will actually highlight you the importance of transformation and the business and the impact of business models, right? So the first example that I want to quote here is the story of the George Stephenson Company. This was a horse carriage maker. Very large organization founded in 1831, had offices in had outlets in multiple countries, a very successful organization during the first industrial revolution. Then as we have discussed many times, second industrial revolution came about, the internal combustion engine. We were now, the world was moving away from horse carriages to cars, and from horses to pistons. Okay? But during this period, this company experimented with cars, but ultimately they couldn't really sustain, and the company basically closed down in 1904, right? So what this company tried to do was they were trying to innovate within the same existing business model framework they had, whereas the industrial revolution and moving into a new era not only needs a transformation on technology, it also needs transformation of your existing business models. And that's how significant it is. And this is a classic example of a company failing, a very successful organization failing, because they couldn't change or transform themselves into a new industrial revolution. The other example is that I'm sure some of you would have heard about the Studebaker company. They were known as the Apple of that era. This is also another company, originally a horse carriage maker, founded in 1852. The advantage of this company was this company started experimenting with electric engines and internal combustion engines, and they successfully transformed their horse carriage business into motor cars. Right? They transformed themselves. But yet, even after the transformation, The company ultimately has to close down in 1996 because they could not sustain the transformation that they went through. So even though they transform themselves using technology, they transform their business model, their capacity to sustain the transformation was not enough, and in the long term, they failed. Now, why these two examples? This is the exact situation that we are facing today. There are many companies, many organizations who will try to transform, who will fail without the transformation. And there are companies who will transform, but yet who may fail because they won't be able to compete or sustain themselves with the new emerging competitions that are coming up. So this actually should give you a insight into how important an organization not only should transform through technology, but also should transform its business model, the way of working, and also to be able to sustain itself going forward. Now, a business model is about basically the formula of our organization, how it operates, right? It basically describes three key things. A business model contains of how an organization creates value, and how it actually captures value, and what's the value proposition that it actually gives your consumer. Now, the idea of a business model is that it kind of shows how an organization is kind of functioning. Now, during the process of conducting, to analyze, to do the when we are doing the how do I say, the digital excellence awards ceremony, we did a lot of study and work on try to understand how we would be able to assess the business models. I think Ehanta will speak about it a bit more. And what we kind of drilled down was we figured, we actually kind of came across there are how a organization, every dimension, or the main three dimensions: value creation, value proposition, value capture. There are sub dimensions that have been developed. Right? So business model innovation necessarily means it's not about a product innovation, or it's not about a process innovation. It's a combination of everything. So a change either in a holistic manner in the value creation part, or in a value proposition dimension, or in the value capture dimension, is what we actually categorize as business model innovation. This is not about offering a new product, or not about offering a new service. It should involve a holistic view of the organization. So that's what I wanted to try to emphasize here. And again, this is what I was talking about earlier. I would like to what I would like to do is talk about a very interesting case study that I came across when I was doing my studies. And this is a Harvard Business Review case study about how Godrej was able to, how Godrej innovated in their business model and product. And I mean, this is a comprehensive innovation of in every aspect of a business model. So the story here is that Godrej was losing its market share on the refrigerator markets due to cheap competition from the other Asian countries. And what they realized was India had a very large rural population which actually needed refrigeration, and that nobody was catering to that. So they had to, what they did was they initially modified, or initially improvised and made a new refrigerator that could work in rural India, where there were many power failures and so on. So they had to initially develop a product, and then not only they developed the product, they were able to, the most beautiful innovation that they have done is they actually used the Indian Postal Service to sell the refrigerator to the rural markets without going through their traditional channels. They made use of the Indian Postal Service to take the product to the rural masses, as well as they also innovated on a microfinance scheme which enabled the rural masses to buy the product. Now this kind of involves multiple changes in multiple dimensions of the organization, in terms of the processes, in terms of what the product was offered, how it was offered, the channel it was chosen. So that's a comprehensive innovation in terms of the business model of the organization. And you would also notice the next speaker who's going to speak and explain the case study in the business model innovation is not only but the innovation actually had in how well the innovation has improved the organization's profitability and their operations. So without taking much more time, I will let Shehan to give the other speaker opportunity, because that case would give you much more insight of how a Sri Lankan organization has innovated their business model and been in a very successful manner. Thanks, Shehan.
Thank you so much. Right. So before we move on to the next case study, would like to introduce yet another one of our judges who is here today. Would like to welcome Mr. Isira Perera, Chief Operating Officer of PICME. So welcome, Isira. Thank you so much for being a part of our team here. So it's really great to have you with us this morning. All right. So now we will move on to the case study which Tushi was talking about. And to do that, I would like to invite Mr. Bimal Perera, Deputy General Manager Strategy and Digital Finance at LB Finance PLC. He's going to present the case on how they improvised, innovated to simplify core business models. So before I do that, let me give a brief introduction to Mr. Bimal Perera. Bimal Perera is a high-impact corporate strategist with a strong ability to identify evolving business trends and facilitate action-driven plans to support corporate growth. He is a proven investment professional, highly competent in evaluating new business and investment opportunities with a long-term vision. He's an astute enterprise risk manager with over a decade of C-suite experience in the financial services domain. Right, so without further ado, I would like to invite Mr. Bimal Perera of LB Finance PLC to present his case. Over to you, Bimal.
Thank you for those kind words. So I got 50 minutes, I think, to make my presentation on our case study. So as Dushi mentioned towards the latter part of his presentation, this is a classic case of how we improvise and innovated traditional age-old business model, a core business model using technology. So as you know, I represent a financial institution, a non-banking financial institution, one of the leading ones in Sri Lanka. Our business is actually giving credit. So we mostly to retail segment, bottom of the pyramid, giving credit on secured or unsecured terms. Now I'll throw some stats for everyone's benefit. Approximately 5.6 million people, or about 35% of adults in the country, are looking for some form of credit. This is a research done by World Bank, and they've done this study for many countries. So our figure stands at about 35%, which is about 5.6 million. And if you take this 5.6 million, only about 3.5 of them are being catered by the formal sector. So the banks and the non-banks together, they cater to about only 60% of this group of people who are looking for finance. So that creates a 2 million group of million people who are actually looking for finance but are not getting it from the formal sector. So they're actually resorting to the informal sector. So that's the opportunity. If we find a way to cater to this informal sector, that's how large the opportunity is. 2 million people, adults in Sri Lanka, looking for credit. And then also, if you look at the infrastructure backdrop, so based on the estimates of the leading telcos, there are about 9 million smartphones in the country. There are many more, I would say, than 9 million. But if you look at the compatible ones, that's about 9 million, right? And roughly about 85% of Sri Lankans, the adults, again, they own a bank account. So these are like some of the things we have to consider and keep in mind when we discuss our innovation. So why this group has been excluded from the sector? Because they are into the informal sector. So they don't receive, like you and I, a monthly income, which means recovering a loan from them becomes that much more difficult because you're not getting a monthly income to your account, so your cash flows are not steady. Therefore, the FIs, the banks, and employees are reluctant to take that additional risk of uncertain cash flows. So that's the main reason why this group has been excluded from the segment, because they receive like you and I a monthly income. So their income could be a daily income, it could be a weekly income, and that's not very certain and that's not very stable. So figure out a way to overcome this challenge, right? Then it opens out a great opportunity for you to actually expand your business and do it while managing risk in an efficient and a scalable manner. So the whole idea behind our innovation was to see how we can use the available technology with the organization and use what is available as common infrastructure for the industry and innovate around it, improvise around it, so we can overcome this challenge. And also, I think it's goes without saying the financial institutions and their recovery business models were challenged over the last 2 years, right? So in addition to the opportunity that I mentioned, overcoming the pandemic-induced challenges in recovering loan was also a significant part, right? So all the existing models, whether it was customer initiated or an agent initiated recovery mechanism that institutions had, all those were challenged during the last 2 years, and the world has changed as we know it over the pandemic. So that's also the reason why we feel that the innovation we brought to our model has benefited our organization in great deal. So what we've done is we automated our loan recoveries. I mean, when you just simply take automation, I mean, anybody can automate, if you actually set up a standing order. But what we've done is we've developed a mechanism through our own mobile platform, which is SIM, a digital bank account, a payment app, and we've used what is available as common payment infrastructure in the country, and we developed something called the scheduled payment, or the automated recovery scheduled payment, where we can pull money from our borrowers, in the informal sector, when they have to make payments at maybe different frequencies. So for a formal sector borrower, you would ideally set a monthly loan because his income is a monthly income received on a particular date. But for an informal sector, his income, if you take a tuk-tuk driver, his income is a daily income. If you take maybe a small shop, his cash flows could be on a weekly basis for SME. So how do you actually entertain these people, their credit requirements, and make sure you are able to recover them? Because in the informal sector, they are earnings, so they can make a monthly commitment. So how you overcome that is actually you set up your recovery mechanism or recovery frequency to suit their lifestyle, suit their cash flows, suit their income patterns. And when you think about it, if you are to recover a loan, a small ticket loan daily, you are actually looking at a large recovery effort having an army of recovery officers, right? So that is where the technology comes. And if you can actually do that at whatever the frequency you want, whether it's daily or hourly or weekly, and you can take technology where it will happen efficiently, and you don't incur a large cost on having a large team, then it opens up opportunities for you to expand your portfolio into these segments. So that's what we've done. So we basically transformed how we look at our loan recoveries, because if you are giving to the tier 1 or top grade customers, you expect the customers to actually pay you back without being reminded. If you are lending to subprime, then the micro SME level informal sector, you expect generally to maintain a very large group of your own agents to go and give these reminders, so you don't they don't fall into delinquent or arrears categories. But can you do that without having that intervention? Can you hand it over the technology? Handing it over sounds very, sexy and, cool, but can you do it efficiently? Because you are looking at, you are talking about, loans advance using public deposit. So, you can design a system to recover loans and hand it over to the technology, but can you do it efficiently so that, you can overcome, willful defaulters, trying to evade repayments. So that's the whole design behind the SIM schedule payment, where we, looked at those scenarios where a customer would actually, make an attempt to delay his payments, and we try to overcome those areas. I think probably we can go into detail in the Q&A how we've done it. So we built those buffers in the system, so we protected the company's interest in recovering these loans while the technology takes care of it. So what it has done to the organization, it has changed the way we look at our recovery operation altogether. So there is no need to, especially for the micro and SME sector, you don't have to have a large pool of recovery agents. You don't have to send constant reminders because it's automated. It's in your mobile app, and you link your main income earning accounts, bank accounts to your mobile app, and it's recovered through reminders, through the technology. The customer doesn't have to initiate the payment. So the customer, however good you are as a borrower, you may not be intentionally, delaying your payments. But when you have frequent payments and overlapping loans, you tend to miss. It happens to us also. When you maintain a couple of credit cards, you tend to miss something, unintentionally. So that, those mistakes, those delays, those late payment fees are completely eliminated once you hand it over the technology. So that's the benefit for the customer. So I wouldn't go into the process flow in too detail. Probably we can, if there's interest, we can discuss them at the Q&A. So with the given, time frame, I would like to, conclude my session or my initial presentation, and maybe happy to answer any questions that the audience may have about the way we've done this, and anything they need clarifications on. Over to you, Shehan.
Ladies and gentlemen, once again, let me remind you, if you have any questions for any of our panelists this morning, please do drop in on the Zoom chat, and then we will take it up as we go along. Now we move on to our next session, and I would like to invite Mr. Nadisha Gamage, Associate Director, Solution Architecture at WSO2. Remember, WSO2 was one of our platinum sponsors for the Digital Excellence Awards, and we are thankful to them for supporting our initiative. So Nadisha today will speak to you on the maturity model for organizations to assess their current state during an activity session, right? A reference methodology for agile digital businesses as well. So let me give a brief introduction to Nadisha before I actually provide him the opportunity to speak. Nadisha is part of the solutions architecture team at WSO2. He counts over 13 years of experience in the industry, out of which 9 years have been with WSO2. In his current role, Nadisha works with customers from multiple domains to build robust, low latency, scalable solutions with the use of open source technology. Nadisha currently heads the solution architecture practice at WSO2 for Asia Pacific region. Right, so now I would like to hand over the proceedings to Nadisha. Nadisha, over to you.
Hi everyone, good afternoon. So thanks Shehan for your kind introduction. So I'm Nadisha. I'm an associate director at WSO2 from the solutions architecture team. So let me skip the intro about myself. Shehan was kind enough to give that introduction. So today's topic is about talking about a methodology to kind of figure out where you are in your digital roadmap and figure out how you can improve yourself, improve your organization in that roadmap to be fully integration agile. So before I get on to that, I'll simply talk about I'll talk about the evolution of IT systems and how things have evolved so far. So computers, I mean, organizations started using computers and systems in the early 1970s. It was predominantly monolithic. Everything runs on a single box. And in the 1980s, we saw specialized apps coming into play, like SAP came up with an ERP system and related systems from other companies. So there was some form of disaggregation. And with this type of disaggregation, you wanted to have some form of connectivity between these systems. So we had protocols like RPC, COBA, COBOL coming into play to connect with each other. Then in the 90s, we saw companies like Microsoft coming into play, and then we saw departmental apps. So you had apps for accounting, applications for HR, and so on. And with that, we saw more and more disaggregation in the industry. And in the 2000s, we saw the dot-com bubble, and then we saw the rise of SaaS applications, right? Salesforce, Workday, and so on. Most things are on internet, on SaaS, like external, maintained by external parties, and they communicated through API. So you saw more and more disaggregation. And in 2010 and so on, we saw apps like Uber, Slack, Netflix coming into play, and everything was API driven. And then in the current era, we see extremely high level of disaggregation. So now we talk about functions as a service with Lambda functions. You know, it's more disaggregated, and connectivity becomes extremely important. And we've seen endpoints go from around 50 billion to over 1 trillion. Because everything is now an endpoint, as Asanka was explaining earlier in his presentation. And connectivity with these systems becomes paramount important to an organization. So Gartner, one of the leading analysts in the world, predicted that in 2020, 50% of all IT budget would be spent on integration work. Which being an integration company, which we saw this coming into light. Companies do spend a lot of money now on integration. They see the importance of integration, and that has fueled their business to, you know, have better experiences, have better connectivity with their partners, and so on. So as an organization, there are certain challenges technology brings, especially if you are a brick and mortar or a physical organization. First challenge is customer demand better experience and services. If you take a taxi company in Sri Lanka, Uber and PickMe has now provided a better experience from a user point of view, and the same users demand the same service from the existing taxi players. So that trickles down to all type of industries, right? People always compare your experience with what you get with Netflix, right? So you are no longer insulated from the rest of the world. You have the customers have better options. So that kind of puts pressure on organizations to adopt technology quickly and being able to deliver technology in a superior way. At the same time, your partners also demand, right? As customers, they also demand for better connectivity. They want your systems to be connected with theirs to have a very smooth operations. They want to cut down on the headcount and so on. So they want to reduce manual interactions, and all that trickles down to, again, organizations being pushed to bring technology in as and when required. The technology landscape itself is fast changing. So you have more and more innovations coming in, and then you as an organization should be able to, you know, adopt these technologies. And then from a hiring and training standpoint, you have to hire the right people. You have to always train your staff, and you should be able to retain them in the long run. So that also becomes a challenge. And then organization, most importantly, needs to identify where they stand in terms of process, people, and technology, and always look at ways in terms of how you can improve yourself and then improve your position when it comes to people, process, and technology. So the ultimate objective of any organization in the modern day is to become integration agile, right? And that's what Dushi was also explaining. You need to innovate yourself. You need to be able to adapt to the market quickly, become more agile, and go with the trend. Otherwise, you will simply die as an organization. So there are three aspects to becoming integration agile. One is people, the most important factor. When it comes to people, culture plays a major role, right? In terms of culture, you need to have the right mindset, right culture inculcated within your organization so that people can embrace change. Organization structure also affects the decision making. If you have a very rigid organization, innovations become slower. So you need to have the right structure. And as an organization, what you should focus is moving away from a pyramid structure, especially in your IT departments. Move away from a top-down pyramid structure and ideally and move to a hub and spoke model where you have a like a hub and multiple spokes. So there's a one supervisor or a leader or tech lead, and then you have multiple engineers reporting to him, and then finally move on to a podular structure where things work, or you revolve around something called a pod, which has skill sets varying on different areas that you need to run a project. So if you really drill down on this podular structure, in a podular structure, team is responsible essentially for building, running, and managing the application. And the team should consist of people who has skills to do all these tasks. It is important that this team is autonomous and acts as a business unit. They should be able to make decisions independently. And then there should be clear KPIs, right? And you should be able to easily monitor those KPIs and see how well this is, the team is aligned with the overall organization's objectives. Second factor to consider is process. Process is also important because it defines steps to achieve a given goal. So you kind of are in the current position, but you want to get to a more agile position in 1 year's time or 6 months' time. And the process kind of defines how you are going to achieve that goal. Process also connects closely with people in its execution. So people are required to execute a process. And then it also is connected with technology because technology enables, productivity that is required for the process. And then technology also enables process to be improved, right? So you might have a very agile process where you want to have continuous integration, continuous delivery of your software. And then technology should be there to facilitate that. So there should be improved, for example, like from a DevOps standpoint, you might want to have improved tools for DevOps to provide a continuous integration, continuous delivery kind of agile delivery methodology, and all that requires the right process and as well as the right technology. So from a process standpoint, if you look at the continuum of process continuum, when in the era where computers came into organizations, process was waterfall. So development was very waterfall, very rigid, and then with time you move to system development lifecycle, spiral models, Scrum, RAD, RUP, and all that. And then now you are moving towards a more agile approach of delivering software, delivering products, and so on. So you see a lot of jargons here, but essentially there's two buckets. There's waterfall and agile. Idea and organization should always try to move their process towards agile side and have processes that represent agile delivery methodology. And that's where, I mean, as an organization, where you need to target yourself to get to. Third aspect to it is technology. It's the most important aspect after people. Technology enables people process to achieve the required level of maturity. So without technology, even though you have the right people, right processes, you may not be able to achieve the level of maturity that you require in terms of your IT product delivery. Technology inherently is evolving very fast. So trends change quickly. So it also demands better processes for governance. So it's all related. So as the technology evolves, you need to have processes to govern it, so that you are also in line with what the organization needs. Architecture is kind of foundation for the technology. You may have different types of technologies that you can use, but it all depends on what is the business architecture and the solution architecture that you have within the organization. So there are three common patterns that we call from architecture standpoint. One is layered architecture, segmented architecture, and cell-based architecture pattern. I'll talk about them in the next slide. Selecting the right pattern directly impacts on what technology you would use and what processes that you would follow and what kind of resources or people that you should hire and be included in the team. Okay? So these are the three high-level architecture patterns an organization would fall into. So a less mature organization would have something called a layered architecture. So you would have multiple layers. Basic, very rudimentary explanation would be that you would have your backend systems as the first layer, you would have your middleware as the second layer, and you would have your applications at the third layer who consumes all these services. Then you move to segmented, the layered structure still remains in play, but they are internally a bit more structured to fit different functional groups, right? And then thirdly, you have a very agile distributed cell-based architecture. A cell kind of has components that allows a cell to operate autonomously, and then cells can communicate with each other and work in a very distributed way rather than on a layered model. So that's kind of the maturity of these architectures and how it relates to the technology. We have come up with this maturity model based on our experience working in the industry from a WSO2 standpoint. So this maturity model has 5 pillars, right? So you have monolithic, fast waterfall, API driven, early agility, and integration agile. So these are 5 stages I would call. And then on a horizontal line, you would have the 3 different aspects. So you have people aspect, process aspect, and technology aspect. So as an organization, you may be on a very monolithic structure in terms of people, but your process and technology can be on fast waterfall, or another organization would have very decentralized teams, but your process and technology is more towards API driven. So it's a mix and match. No organization would fit purely on one vertical. They will be here and there based on different processes that they adopt or different policies that they have. But the idea is that organizations can be at different levels, different stages based on this kind of a maturity model. So I'll quickly go through different stages of this maturity model and how an organization would want to evolve. So if you are a monolithic organization and wants to move to fast waterfall, there are certain things that you need to do. So the first thing, from a people standpoint, you need to have people who you need to have kind of systems where you use source control, for example, and then test frameworks being built in to ensure quality. You also need to have code reviews and design reviews put in place as part of your development process. And from a process standpoint, you need to have kind of system development lifecycle processes put in place. And then you need to move away from ad hoc processes and practices that you practice as a monolithic organization. From a technology standpoint, when you move from monolithic to fast waterfall, you need to move towards a layered architecture. You previously may have a single application that does everything, and then you need to disaggregate it as a layered architecture when you move to a fast waterfall. And then you need to categorize layers based on functionality. And then you should be able to connect internal systems using middleware technology. From an outcome standpoint, once you move to a fast waterfall, you should be able to build applications and dashboards using data that is gathered from multiple internal and external systems. So from an architecture diagram standpoint, this is what it would look like. So you would have your systems and data, and then you would have your middleware layer. It can be a ESB or a EDI that exposes these services to your applications. And this ESB or EDI will also connect with partner applications or external applications that resides outside your organization. Yeah, the second stage movement is from fast waterfall to API driven. I believe this is where most of the organizations that comes from this part of the world would want to be in. This is where team structures become smaller. So you would have from a team of 50, you may end up having teams of 12 or 10 people or even 6 people within a team. And team works on parallel projects. So you would have smaller teams working parallelly on one or multiple projects. From a process standpoint, you want to build multiple project plans and execute in parallel. So you don't wait for one project to finish, you work in parallel. And then from a guideline standpoint, you would have an API design guideline put in place so that things, especially API front, connectivity front, you would ensure your organization follows a particular guideline when they create and publish APIs. From a technology standpoint, this is where you move away from a layered architecture to a segmented architecture. You will expose your core business capabilities as APIs, standard APIs that are that follows a common pattern based on the API guideline that you define. And you encourage your app developers to use APIs when developing applications. So outcome of this is you provide the ability for internal and external app developers to deliver better digital experiences utilizing the APIs that you have. So that's the second stage. And once you move to API driven architecture, the change would be that you still would have some layering in, but you would introduce this API layer on top of your ESB or EDI, and then connect your applications via this API layer, and then you connect to partners also via this particular API layer. So the third stage is where you move from API driven to early agility. From a people standpoint, this is where you distribute your team further, and then decision making will also get distributed. Technical capabilities are shared through services. Certain technology capabilities will be available as shared services through a platform. So you don't need to have all the capabilities built in as part of the team. There's certain capabilities that you can consume or use as shared services. From a process standpoint, you would have automated process for continuous integration and delivery. That makes the entire delivery of technology becomes much smoother. You would also enforce governance and policies through the platform. So you would have certain governance policies defined, and then you will enforce it from the platform. The technology from architecture standpoint, you still remain in a segmented architecture, but you would kind of define scope of services within that. And then within layers, you are going to segment it a bit further, and then have functional segmentation of your technological stack to make things much more modular. Decentralized deployments whenever possible. So you may want to decentralize things based on functions, processes, based on customer requirements, based on channels, and so on. You would also use lightweight deployment technologies like containers to deploy your systems. So that's one of the key technology takeaways what you would achieve at early agility. The outcome of this is building real-time information exchanges with consumers through digital applications. And this is what it would look like. So it's more or less similar to the previous picture, but your teams becomes much smaller. And then you would have your shared services coming in to help individual teams. The final stage is when you move from early agility to integration agile. This is where, from a people standpoint, this is where you will build agile core teams. You would have self-organized teams that work within the company, and then you empower everyone to be agile masters. So every member of the team, all the members of the team is encouraged to be agile masters in this kind of a model. From a process standpoint, you move to an iterative execution model. You also focus on continuous integration and delivery. And from a technology standpoint, this is where you kind of go cloud native. You fully utilize containers. You move to a modular cell-based architecture, and then you focus test-driven development. So ensure that your code is tested whenever the code is checked into a GitHub and so on. So proper coordination with technology and process will come into play when you go to a full integration agile model. Outcome of this is you, as an organization, having the capability to deliver consumer-driven digital native applications that are linked to a constant feedback loop from the customer. Right. So this is what early agile integration agile organization would look like. So it's a modular structure. So you would have very smaller teams that has the entire spectrum of skills that are required, building software iteratively that is used by your consumers. So I'd like to talk about a case study from a bank. It's one of the leading banks in the Philippines, which we worked for almost 5 years now. So they were initially a monolithic organization. So the IT systems were all mainframe driven monolithic systems, and they wanted to innovate because Philippines is a country where there is a lot of banks, especially regional banks that does different innovative things, and these large banks wants to always evolve themselves to survive in the market. So the objective was to become integration agile, and so when they started, they were their teams were like they were based like a structure to be center of excellence. They had very waterfall kind of process, and then they were very siloed in terms of technology. And after a couple of years time, they moved to a very decentralized structure. Their processes were semi-continuous, so they had proper continuous integration, continuous delivery process built in, and they had technology architecture that was API driven. So all their internal capabilities were exposed through API platform. And with that, what they did was they were able to build very revolutionized digital products, including a well-integrated mobile wallet. It's one of the most or the largest used mobile wallet in Philippines right now. And they were able to do that because they understood where they were, and then work towards to get to a point where they could be agile enough to build these technological or digital products that they want to bring to the market. So some of the business benefits they got out of it was that they were able to build this common API marketplace for internal users. And what resulted from it was that whenever someone wants to build something new, they didn't build it straight away. They went to the API portal and saw what was already available and try to reuse what was already available. And at the same time, you had a portal available for your partners and third parties. And then the APIs were exposed from that portal, and they were also standardized. They were well documented, and anyone who wants to consume an API can simply go to a portal, test it out, and they integrate with the application. They had they moved to a very decentralized team structure, and they were able to adapt quickly to changes in business demand, make decisions quickly, The processes were automated as much as possible. So they had continuous integration, continuous delivery that significantly reduced the time to market when it comes to IT products. So they can quickly build something and put out to the market. They had a well-integrated or well-built integration test suite so that it improves the stability of the IT products that they released, and they also saw a significant reduction in bugs and issues that come up as part of the product. They also adhere to API design guidelines, making APIs very consistent and easily consumable for both internal as well as external users. Okay, so I'm almost at the end of my presentation. So how can WSO2 help you as an organization? So we provide vendor independent consultancy services to help our customers reach towards integration agile state. We carry out pre-assessments of the current state of maturity and then build API strategies for your organization. We create business architecture, solution architectures that suits your organization. And then we also carry out strategic workshops for your internal teams. If you are interested in getting or just assessing yourself as to where you stand in the maturity model, there's a link provided below, and then you can assess yourself using this link. And it's a quick questionnaire that you need to fill, and then you can kind of assess where you stand in terms of the maturity model. If there's any questions, I'd like to take it now. Or if you can drop them on chat, I would be more than happy to answer them on chat.
Yes, thank you very much. Just let me know so about this integration. And when you use integration, what is the method you the third-party database, or just use the business snapshot of the, like, the table structure, and it is independent, updating the table, and that table will access by the third-party, integration concept. So what is the best method that you rectify, confirm for this process?
Sorry, I didn't hear the first part of your question, but I assume your question is you have some form of a database that you want to expose as for anyone to consume. You're asking how you can do that.
Of course, yes, right.
Yeah. So ideally, so data is kind of traditionally how you would do is you would simply provide SQL access directly to a database. But when you evolve in the maturity model, what you would do is you would expose data as a service. You would use a ESB, for example, that will kind of expose your database as a service. So any consumer can basically do a CRUD operation, do a REST call to the ESB. The ESB will essentially convert that call to a SQL command and query the data or insert to the database and send the response back to your consumer. So ESB kind of bridge the gap from REST to SQL and provide that interfacing between your consumer and the database. Did I answer your question?
Right. So if anyone else has any other questions, please do type it on the Zoom chat. Okay, there's a question from Amila Silva. What is your view on SAFE?
SAFE. So I am not really, I'm not well versed with all these agile practices, but from a implementation, from an architecture standpoint, my view is that you shouldn't really limit yourself to a given standard or a practice. So it's about being agile from a overall operation standpoint. So you, for example, I mean, you don't essentially have to have stand-ups every morning to be agile, right? So it's about your process, your entire operation itself has to follow the structure of being agile to deliver things fast, to be able to have iterative development cycles. So that should be your main focus. I hope, Amila, I answered your question.
Any other questions that you may have? If you can direct it to a particular speaker also, that would be great, so that we can, shoot it across to the relevant speaker. All right, so I think we are at the end of the questions. Right, so before we close, I would like to now invite Mr. Ehanta Sirisena, Managing Director, Sri Lanka, and Director, Global Delivery of GoXpedi, also a very prominent and active member of the FITIS software chapter, to summarize on the day's happenings. Over to you, Ehanta.
Thank you, Shahan, for the kind introduction, and thank you all for being part of this extremely interesting program. Over the last 5 years, I've had developed a great reputation of being between you and your lunch or dinner. So bear with me for a few minutes. Let me quickly summarize, the proceedings today and how how essentially you can be successful in 2022. So just to kind of give you a quick thing on Nadish's program, actually, unfortunately, we were unable to have this as a physical event, but I think there was the whole plan was to have Nadisha kind of make this a more workshop-driven program, and which we will definitely look at, for this year's once this year's program comes through. So essentially, what I will do is in 2 slides quickly summarize as to how the different companies were successful and how you can essentially win in this year when you apply for the awards later on this year. Sure. So considering the the whole digitized product and services area within this the whole digital excellence framework, we have 2 components. One was the connected products and service, and the other one was digital model innovation. So in the 2021 program, we actually had awards for only the connected product and service and the business model innovation. But we didn't, we didn't feel that companies were mature enough for us to actually give a overall winner for digitized product and service as a category itself. So our hope is that this year that we actually are able to essentially give a consolidated award as well. So with that in mind, something that we wanted to kind of really look at was, I had Asanka, then we had the NTB team, kind of really touch upon a few of these key areas, right? So I think if you take connected product and services, it's moving from the evolution from mainframe to metaverse, right? And then if you take context-wise, making it very geosensitive, real-time, predictive, those are a few of the words and the themes that came across during this presentation, right? So with that, the things that we actually looked at when we were evaluating, for example, this particular category, right? So we looked at the architectural best practices. Are you using things like APIs? What's your architecture that you have? The different layering. So those were some of the key areas that we evaluated. So we had like Hasit, who was from 99X, who really looked at what were the different architectures followed, were they the best practices, what else can they improve on, right? So that's the similar theme that we'll be continuing on for this year as well. We looked at things like machine learning and artificial intelligence, how much of it was used, what were the areas, for example, how did you use your data lakes and data models to really drive machine learning, artificial intelligence, and then into predictive behavior and modeling, right? So those were a key element of our evaluation. Few of the other areas we actually looked at very seriously was data privacy. How is your security, cryptography, encryption, and then, how much of effort has been taken into, protecting personal information. I think that's a key theme, especially over the last few years, with all the, the hacking and a lot of the, data leakages that happen. It's a critical area that we look at, when we're evaluating connected product and services. So with that, with all these kind of, the whole excitement of getting into metaverse and etc., but kind of going through that journey, we also wanted to look at, okay, while you do all these new innovative ideas, what is the customer impact, customer service? Have you seen like NPS scores grow? Has these led to new business models that actually generated new revenue streams for you? So as much as, we looked at your whole overall, how did you architect, how do you deliver internally, so your internal processes, and then looked at what impact did that have on your customers, and did that lead to any new business models and revenue streams that came about? So this kind of overlaps very much with the business model innovation, right? So we looked at, that's why we have taken this as kind of a holistic category, where we looked at, the connected product and services and business model innovation is one, and then looked at value creation, value proposition capture, like Dushi very eloquently explained earlier, right? So again, we have used that. So there's very much overlap in the two. So I think it'd be interesting for you to apply for both categories for this year's awards, if you are looking to be successful as an overall group. So things also we looked at business model innovation is partnerships, right? So have you leveraged any of your partner networks in expanding your services and making sure that, you are, again, using that for either customer service enhancement or revenue generation, right? So like I said, overall, these two categories go very much hand in hand. And we had a great time. We had we had shortlisted to around 11 participants for the connected product and services, and out of that we were able to award roughly around 3 people, so 3 teams. So our goal is to make sure that this year's awards are very much more competitive. We want to see how do you do hyper growth, how do you have that exponential graph, let's say in your user growth numbers, maybe it's in your transactions, it may be on your customer service, your NPS score. You might have seen an exponential growth in your NPS score, for example. So I think that's the most critical thing that we are looking for in 2022, and we are pretty excited. And I know we have a great program planned for the next few months in preparation for the awards, and it's a great time. I'm sure you will enjoy the process as well. So with that, thanks a lot for being a part of this session. And if you have any questions, I'm happy to take them on. If not, you can ask any of the other presenters who were here for the last few hours. So thank you, and hope to see you at the 2022 awards.
If you have any questions, you can please drop in the Zoom chat and we can quickly take it up. I think we are over time as well. Before we conclude our session, let me remind you, so this is just the first of many sessions that we have lined up for you, right? So we have a very exciting session on digitized customer experience, along with case studies lined up for the 15th of March. Then we have a session on digitized operation on the 24th of March. We have a session on digitized organization on the 5th of April. Remember, all these sessions are packed along with interesting case studies, how local and overseas organizations have successfully gone into digital transformation. We have our final session for the last year's round of programs on the 25th of May. It's on exponential implementation. It's done by OpenXO. All right, ladies and gentlemen, so we are at the end of our session today. I would like to thank everyone for being a part of this session. It was really exciting, and I think we had more than 100 participants logged in today. We had a lot of interest generated at the onset through registrations. So this video, this session will be online tomorrow on the FITIS YouTube channel. So please do subscribe to the FITIS YouTube channel, and then you can view this. There's a lot of I received a lot of messages, emails, and even WhatsApp messages asking me to share this recording. So it will be online from tomorrow. So thank you once again for being a part of our session today. I hope you enjoyed. So until we meet again, take care, stay safe, and God bless you all. Thank you.